What if some of the habits keeping you financially stuck are habits you've been treating as normal, not bad luck, not a curse, not something you were born into, but repeated decisions that quietly destroy your ability to build? The Bible talks about money more than many Christians realize, and Scripture repeatedly connects certain behaviors with poverty, lack, and financial destruction. So today, we're not talking about getting rich overnight. We're talking about 7 everyday habits that Scripture warns can keep a person poor. And number 7 is especially dangerous because many people call it generosity. Number 1, you spend everything you earn. The problem isn't necessarily how much you make, it's what happens after the money arrives. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20 says, "There is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up." Read that again. The wise person stores, the foolish person consumes everything. If every paycheck disappears, you don't have a money problem alone. You have a consumption problem. More income won't automatically fix that. If your spending rises every time your income rises, you'll remain financially fragile at almost any income level. The habit to break is simple. Stop treating every increase in income as permission to increase your lifestyle. Build margin, save, invest, prepare. Because money you don't immediately consume can eventually become capital. And that leads directly to number 2. You refuse to work diligently. The Bible doesn't glorify laziness. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." That's blunt. A slack hand produces poverty. A diligent hand produces increase. But notice what this doesn't mean. It doesn't mean every poor person is lazy. That would be false. People can experience poverty through circumstances they didn't create. Economic conditions, illness, war, family responsibilities, bad opportunities, injustice. So don't use this verse to judge someone's financial situation. The warning is about a habit, not someone's worth. If you consistently avoid useful work, refuse to develop skills, arrive late, quit easily, or expect results without effort, you're making poverty more likely. Diligence doesn't guarantee wealth, but persistent laziness makes progress extremely difficult. Number 3, you keep borrowing to maintain a lifestyle you cannot afford. This one is uncomfortable because debt can look normal. New phone, new clothes, new car, new furniture, vacation, everything can be financed. But eventually, the future arrives and demands payment. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7 says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." Debt isn't automatically sinful. A productive loan can sometimes be rational, but consumer debt used to imitate a lifestyle you cannot actually afford can trap you. You're spending tomorrow's income to satisfy today's desires. Then your future paycheck arrives, already partially owned by someone else. The habit isn't simply borrowing, it's borrowing without considering the consequences. Number 4, you refuse to learn. This is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. You don't know how money works, but you refuse to learn. You don't understand investing, but you refuse to learn. You don't understand business, but you refuse to learn. You don't have a valuable skill, but you refuse to develop one. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Knowledge alone doesn't make you wealthy, but ignorance can make you extremely vulnerable. If you don't understand contracts, someone else can exploit you. If you don't understand interest, debt can consume you. If you don't understand value, you may spend years working hard at something the market barely rewards. Wisdom begins with learning, and learning is available. Read, study, ask questions, learn a skill, understand your industry, understand your numbers. You don't need to know everything, but you cannot afford to remain deliberately ignorant. Number 5, you chase quick money. This is where desperation becomes dangerous. You see someone making money online, and suddenly you want the same result. A new opportunity appears. You jump in. A new investment promises enormous returns. You send money. A stranger promises guaranteed profit. You believe them. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 20 says, "A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent." Notice those words, makes haste to be rich. The Bible isn't condemning wealth. It's warning against the obsession with getting rich quickly. Fast money creates terrible judgment. You stop asking, "Is this wise?" and start asking, "How quickly can I profit?" That's how people become vulnerable to scams, gambling, predatory investments, and businesses they don't understand. Slow growth can feel boring, but boring is often safer than desperation. Number 6, you refuse to plan. You earn money, but have no idea where it goes. You have goals, but no numbers. You want to build wealth, but have no timeline. You want to start a business, but haven't calculated the cost. Jesus specifically taught the importance of counting the cost. Luke chapter 14, verse 28 says, "For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost?" That's basic wisdom. Before building, count the cost. Before borrowing, count the cost. Before investing, count the cost. Before quitting your job, count the cost. Faith doesn't eliminate planning. Faithful stewardship requires it. If you never know where your money is going, you will struggle to control where your money ends up. And now, the seventh habit. This one sounds spiritual, but it can quietly destroy your finances. You give recklessly because you want God to make you rich. There's a difference between generosity and financial irresponsibility disguised as faith. Some people give money they cannot afford to give, then immediately expect God to multiply it. They ignore their obligations, ignore their family, ignore wise planning, then call the consequences spiritual warfare. But Scripture doesn't teach financial recklessness. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 says, "But if any provide not for his own, and specially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." Generosity is biblical. Manipulating God with money isn't. Giving should flow from faith, not desperation. You don't need to destroy your household to prove you're generous. You don't need to give away money you were entrusted to manage responsibly. Just because someone promised you a financial miracle, God cares about your generosity and your stewardship. So let's put all seven together. Spending everything you earn, refusing diligent work, borrowing to maintain an unaffordable lifestyle, refusing to learn, chasing quick money, failing to plan, and confusing reckless giving with biblical generosity. But here's the part I don't want you to miss. The Bible doesn't teach that poverty makes someone less valuable, and it doesn't promise that obedience will make every Christian wealthy. Jesus himself warned against measuring life by possessions. Luke chapter 12, verse 15 says, "Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth." That's the balance. Money matters, but money is not your identity. Wealth can be useful, but wealth is not your worth. The goal isn't to become obsessed with getting rich. The goal is to become a faithful steward. Earn honestly, spend wisely, save responsibly, give generously, learn continuously, plan carefully, and trust God without using faith as an excuse for foolishness. Now go back to the first question. What if some of the things keeping you financially stuck are habits you've been treating as normal? Maybe the answer isn't, "I need more money." Maybe the first answer is, "I need better stewardship of the money I already have." So which one of these seven habits needs to change first? Don't just comment a number. Name the habit, because identifying the problem is easy. Changing it is where your financial story actually begins.